Good morning. I hope you're doing well. So today we want to do biology and we will take a look at the kidney. Okay, so the kidney, there are two kidneys. Every human being has two kidneys. There is the left kidney and the right kidney. Women, their kidneys range between 9 to 13 centimeters, the diameter. And for the men, their kidneys range between 10 to 14 centimeters. Each kidney has around about 150 grams to 260 grams. The left kidney is slightly larger than the right kidney. The left kidney is slightly larger than the right kidney, and the right kidney is slightly lower than the left kidney. So the kidney it is masculine in nature, and it has a lot of blood capillaries. So I will just give you a rough structure of the kidney in the slide. It is going to be shown on your screen. The kidney has a lot of capillaries and it has parts. It has an outer part, an inner part, and a middle part. The outer part is called the medulla cortex. You can see them, you can see the structure of the kidney. There are capillaries, there are arterioles, the venule, the renal vein, and the renal artery. We do know that the renal vein brings in blood and the renal artery takes it out from the kidney. The renal pyramid, yes, that's the slide. The renal pyramid, we have the renal pelvis and the cortex. Now, just to take you back to our second slide, to give you a rough name of the kidney. The kidneys are two bean shaped. You have to know that their shape. They are two bean shaped, and they are located at the posterior part of the lower abdomen. Really? They are located at the posterior of the lower abdominal wall. Lower abdominal wall. And they help the body to pass to wastes as urine. They also help to filter blood and sending it back to the heart. Now we want to look at the functions of the kidney before we go to its main function. So I want to start from the functions of the kidney. In our third slide, I'm just going to give you a summary of the functions of the kidney. Number one, it maintains overall fluid balance. Number one, it maintains overall fluid balance. And then in the brackets, you'll notice that I put something called the nephron. That means that the nephron is in the kidney, and the kidney maintains the overall fluid balance. Okay, the second one is regulating and filtering mineral from blood. Regulating and filtering mineral salts from the blood. Number 2, regulating and filtering. It regulates and it also filters minerals from food, and blood. And that also, there is nephron in the bracket. And then it creates hormones that help to produce red blood cells. Creates hormones that helps to produce red blood cells. So the kidney creates hormones that help to produce the red blood cells, and lastly, filtering waste minerals from food, medications, and toxic substances. Filtering minerals from food and medications, and toxic food, medications, and toxic substances. And food substances. So these are the four. Okay, there is also osmoregulation. There is also osmoregulation. We also have osmosis and many others that you will find out when you either get to Form 4 or when you are doing revision. I will not go through all of them. Okay, so these are the main functions of the kidney. I'm not saying this is all, but there are more that you need to research. Okay, so you realize that we were talking about the nephron in brackets. So I want us to go through the nephron. Okay. In the kidney, we have about 1 million and so nephrons, and there are so many, and they help in sorry. Okay, in your screen you have the nephron. The nephron is a microscopic, structural, and functional unit of the kidney. The nephron is the microscopic. When we say microscopic, it means that they are very tiny. They can only be viewed through the microscope. They cannot be seen by our naked eyes. So they are microscopic, structural, and functional units, and functional units of the kidney. Structural and functional unit of the kidney. This means that it is very, very much important to the kidney. Okay, so the nephron is composed of renal corpuscle and renal tubule. The renal corpuscle consists of tufts of capillaries called the glomerulus and encompassed by the Bowman's capsule. The renal tubule extends from the capsule. So we find out that the kidney, the nephron has the renal corpuscle and the renal tubule. The renal cupule consists of the taps of capillaries. So I want us to measure on the renal cupule. It contains capillaries. It contains capillaries, and these capillaries are called the glomerulus. The glomerulus are very, very much important. I will just show you how important they are as we continue, as we proceed. They're very much important to the kidney and to the nephron itself. It does a lot of function, and the glomerulus plays a very important role. So I want to show you the structure of the kidney nephron. I want to show you the structure of the kidney nephron. But before that, I want us to look at the functions of the kidney nephron. Before that, I want us to look at the functions of the kidney nephron. The functions, number one, is ultrafiltration. Number two is reabsorption. And it is important. It is important to note that this reabsorption is not just random reabsorption, it is selective reabsorption. Selective reabsorption. Number three, secretion. And lastly, excretion. And lastly, excretion. So I want to go one by one, explaining how the nephron does the ultrafiltration, reabsorption, secretion, and excretion. Let us go to the structure of the kidney nephron so as to explain how all these occur. On your screen, you will be shown the structure of the kidney nephron. And there you are able to see the efferent arteriole. I hope you are together. You're seeing the efferent arteriole. That is whereby the blood comes into the nephron. We have the glomerula, the Bowman's capsule, efferent arteriole, proximal convoluted tubule, descending loop of Enl, ascending loop of Enl, distal convoluted tubule, and then the collecting duct. Okay. I want to explain how ultrafiltration, reabsorption, secretion, and excretion occurs. So I will draw a very simple labeled kidney nephron that will help us to explain how all these occur. Okay. This is the afferent arteriole. I'm just doing a sketch. This is the afferent arteriole. It comes into the Bowman's capsule, and the Bowman's capsule has something called the glomerulus. The glomerulus acts as a sieve. So the outer ball-like structure that caps the glomerulus is called the Bowman's capsule. The Bowman's capsule caps the glomerulus. The glomerulus acts as a sieve. Okay, we said that the efferent arteriole brings in blood. We also have this is the afferent arteriole, and this is the efferent arteriole. So I'm starting to describe the ultrafiltration. So the efferent arteriole brings in blood into the glomerulus, and the glomerulus, we said that it acts as a sieve. Something that acts as a sieve means that it helps some things to pass through it and others do not pass in. The soluble components of the blood are allowed to pass in, they are sieved in. And the soluble components of blood include the soluble components. There are 6. Number 1, we have water. There has to be water. Number 2, we have sodium ions. Number 3, we have potassium ions. Number 4, we have urea. Number 5, we have amino acids. And lastly, we have the glucose. These are the soluble components of urea, and they will be eliminated as we go. And that will explain the ultrafiltration and everything. But there are also insoluble components of the blood that remains at the glomerulus. The insoluble ones are, number 1, there are just 2. Number 1 is the red blood cells. And number 2, we have the plasma proteins. These ones cannot pass through the glomerulus and they remain as the residues. Insoluble ones, you can also call them the residues. And the residues, they do not just remain at the glomerulus, they are taken out through the efferent arteriole. We have said that the insoluble, the residues, they do not just remain here at the glomerulus. They are taken out through the efferent arteriole. The soluble components of the blood are then taken into the proximal convoluted tubule. The proximal convoluted tubule is highly curved to increase the selective reabsorption of glucose and amino acids. So there is selective reabsorption of glucose and amino acids at the proximal convoluted tubule. This is the proximal convoluted tubule, and we have said that what remains here, the selective reabsorption of glucose and amino acids. Not everything is reabsorbed. Only there is just selective reabsorption of glucose and amino acids, and the rest, that is the higher percentage. The rest proceed going down to the, this is called the descending loop of Henle. This is called the descending loop of Henle, and then there is also the ascending loop of Henle. Descending loop of Henle, and then there is ascending loop of Henle. descending loop of Henle, ascending loop of Henle. Okay, so after the glucose and amino acids has been selectively reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule, we go to the descending loop of Henle. The remaining filtrate goes to the loop of Henle, whereby potassium ions and sodium ions, are pumped into the cell to increase the osmotic, to increase the surface area of reabsorption of water. We all know that there is osmotic pressure needed here. We all know that osmosis is the movement of water through a semipermeable membrane from a region of lower concentration to a region of higher concentration. So there is osmotic pressure that is needed here in the descending loop of Henle, whereby the salt, the potassium ion, and the sodium ions are pumped into the cell so as to allow water to get into the cell through osmosis. So that means that the water that was in the filtrate, it is pumped into the cells to increase the surface area of to increase reabsorption of water into the cell. What you are remaining with, if you have noticed, is only urea. So let's continue. In the ascending loop of Henle, after the water has been reabsorbed, of course, not all of it is going to be reabsorbed, so only a higher percentage. After the water has been reabsorbed, it goes into the ascending loop of Henle, and then when it gets into the distal convoluted tubule, don't get confused, this is the proximal convoluted tubule, and then you also have the distal convoluted tubule. Guys, here. Yes. Okay, distal convoluted tubule. The distal convoluted tubule, when water gets here, the sodium ion and the potassium ion are then released from the cell to help the water move from the cell. And the relevance of this is to help in the dilution of urea. This one is aided by a hormone called the antidiuretic hormone. The antidiuretic hormone. So the antidiuretic hormone is produced to help in the dilution of urea. We all know that that concentrated urea is not healthy for human beings. So that is why sodium and potassium ions are then released back from the cell so as to allow water to come out from the cells and dilute the urea. And it is aided by this hormone called the ADH. It is then aided by this hormone called the ADH. Now, there's something that you need to note, that More ADH means more water is absorbed into the cell. More ADH means that more water is absorbed and less concentrated the urea. More ADH means more water is absorbed, is reabsorbed, and less concentrated the urea is. Less ADH means less water is reabsorbed and more concentrated the urea. So the antidiuretic hormone, the absence or insufficient antidiuretic hormone causes some kind of diabetes that we will look into later. Let us continue. This one is not finished. So in the distal convoluted tubule, we said that the water is now released in order to dilute the urea. And then we have something called the collecting duct. We have the collecting duct, and then this one then leads to the bladder. The bladder is somewhere around here. So the urea that is already diluted comes into the bladder, and then it is removed out through, and that process is called excretion. So this is how it occurs. So this was just a summary of ultrafiltration, and we've seen that water gets in through the afferent artery, afferent arteriole, that is the blood. It gets into the afferent arteriole, comes to the glomerulus where it is being sieved, and the insoluble molecules of blood are taken out through the afferent arteriole, and we said that the insoluble were the red blood cells and the plasma proteins. And then he said that the glucose and the amino acids are reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule. And then the remaining one, which was the salts, the two salts, the sodium ion and the potassium ion, and water, they are taken through the descending loop of Henle to be reabsorbed, and then later they are pumped out of the cells to allow the water to dilute the urea, and later the urea is taken to the collecting duct, and then finally to the bladder, and that is how the excretion occurs. Just to take us back, we said that the functions of the nephron, to remind you, the functions of the nephron, we said that number one was ultrafiltration. Number two was reabsorption. And the reabsorption was selective reabsorption. Number 3 was secretion. And number 4 was excretion. If you have noticed, if you are cleanly following, you will realize that we've tackled all of them. So, if it comes as an essay in your biology paper, you will be told to describe this process, and I hope that this one has helped you a great deal. Let us continue. We are finished with the nephron, and so I want us to just give you on your screen. I want to give you a summarized definition of the 4 functions of the kidney nephron. Number 1, we said that the filtration or the ultrafiltration, which is described as is the transfer of soluble components such as water and waste from the blood into the glomerulus. And we saw that one. And the second one was reabsorption, which involves the absorption of molecules, ions, and water into the necessary for the body to maintain homeostasis from the glomerular filtrate back into the blood. That was the reabsorption. And then we've also said that secretion involves transfer of hydrogen ions, creatine and drugs, urea, from the blood into the collecting duct, and is primarily made of water, blood, glucose, and normally found in the urine. So the blood, glucose are not normally found in the urine. I hope you know why. Because you said that in the filtrate there is only water, there is no blood. Glucose was reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule. That is why, if you are asked why glucose and blood are not found in the urine, neither are protein found in the urine. These ones are not found in the urine. Why? Because they were, the blood is not found, the glucose and the protein remain as the residue in the glomerula, and the glucose was reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule. Up to there, I hope we are together. Now, just as to tell you what a urine is, urine is a liquid excrement consisting of water, salts, and urea. Liquid excrement containing water, urea, and salts. If you have realized, we did not say that salt is also being absorbed. We said that when it gets to the distal convoluted tubule, it is then released from the cells, and then to help the water move out. So some of the salt, so salt is also found in the urine, and water is obviously found in the urine, and then the urea, which was to be diluted by the water in the collecting duct. Okay. I want us to go to the diseases of the kidney. I want us to go to the diseases of the kidney, and I want us to look at them because our time is almost over. Just to summarize them, the first disease is chronic kidney disease. Number 1, chronic kidney disease. What is chronic kidney disease? It is commonly caused by high blood pressure. commonly caused by high blood pressure. Number 2, we have the kidney stones. Kidney stones. Kidney stones is usually common these days, but then it occurs when minerals and other substances in the blood crystallize in the kidney, forming solid masses. When other crystals are like the sodium and potassium, when these ones, when they crystallize, they form solid masses, and these solid masses are the ones called the kidney stones. And then kidney stones, the cause is crystallization of blood solid masses. Okay, the third disease that we're going to look at is called the glomerulopentries. Glomerulonephritis. The glomerulonephritis is an inflammation of the glomeruli. Inflammation of the glomeruli. When the glomerulus, when they inflammate, they cause this disease called the glomerulonephritis. The fifth one, urinary tract infection. Urinary tract infection, it is also called UTI. It is common. The UTI is a bacterial infection of any part of the urinary system. So it is caused by bacteria. And this bacteria, when it infects any part of the urinary system, it causes the UTI. And then lastly, they are not just 5, there are more, but I'm just giving you 5 of them. Another one is called polycystic kidney disease. The last one is the polycystic kidney disease. Polycystic kidney disease is caused by it is a genetic disorder that causes numerous cysts. And these cysts are the small sacs of fluid that grow in the kidney. So this one is genetic. It is not just written by anyone. It is genetic, and it causes small sacs of fluid that grow in the kidney. Sacs of fluid that grow in the kidney. So we have cure for these diseases, and we also have prevention measures. So I want you as a student to go and research the preventive measures and also how they can be cured. So before, when you will be researching the prevention measures and their cures, I want to give you the signs and symptoms, a few of these diseases, just general signs and symptoms. that when you experience, it means that you may just be having kidney disease. Yeah, so the signs and symptoms of acute kidney failures may include, these are the general signs. The general signs, number one, when you experience decrease in urine output, it is not normal for a person to go for like 2 days without urinating. So when you experience such, it might just mean that you may be having urine problems. The second one is fluid retention. Fluid retention that may cause swelling in your legs and ankles or feet. Fluid retention that may cause swelling in the joints, that is the ankles, foot, and legs. Ankles, legs, feet. So when you experience this, the swelling of ankles, the swelling of legs, the swelling of feet, this might be as a result of the kidney disease, of a kidney disease. So you may just need to visit the doctor. Another one is shortness of breath. This one usually accompanies any other sign. Maybe you might experience decrease in urine output, and then you also experience shortness of breath. You really need to visit the doctor. Another one is fatigue, confusion, nausea, weakness, general weakness of the body, nausea, irregular heartbeat, and irregular heartbeat. So these are the general signs of kidney diseases that you might experience. Maybe if you're developing a problem in your kidney. So you might just want to check them out, and then as a student you are required to go and do the prevention measures and their cure. So to end the lesson, I'd like to give us a few questions. That you will answer, and if you can't find the answers, you can send them back to KUTV and we will give you the answers. So on your screen, you might just want to have a short or just copy the questions. So let me read the questions for you. Give 3 functions of the kidney. We have learned that, and you're not going to have a hard time doing that. Number 2 is name 2 things that remain in the glomerula as residue. Name 2 molecules that remain in the glomerulus as residue. And remember, we said that they do not remain in the glomerulus. They are taken out through the efferent arteriole. Another one is name 6 things that make the glomerular filtrate. Name 6 molecules that make the glomerular filtrate. 6 molecules. We just name them there. I know you note them down. And then the second last question is describe the process of ultrafiltration. That is 20 marks. And it is likely to come to your papers. So describe the process of ultrafiltration. If you cannot describe this one, then you need private tutors, so we can also help you. The last question is, name 5 kidney diseases and their signs. Name 5 kidney diseases and their signs. Those are the questions that I want you to take away home, and you can do them, and maybe there is a number that will be sent to your screen. You can send the answers there so that we may look at them, at your answers. Remember, we also said that you do extra research on the kidney signs, the signs of kidney diseases, and also you do the research on the cures of the kidney diseases. So that is the end of our lesson for today. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Until next time, have a nice day.